Hey everyone, welcome to Blue Heron Hill. It is time to start peppers, which means that's for me just a week away before I start my tomatoes. So peppers take just a little bit longer to germinate and just a little bit longer to grow out. And usually this translates into about 7 weeks before your average last frost date. So time to start the peppers. Now last year I did start them earlier, probably about a week earlier, and I found that they got very tall. And when I transplanted them out, it seemed as though they just had a little bit of transplant shock and had a hard time getting going. So I thought better off to start them than a week beyond that. And so maybe they aren't quite as tall and wouldn't have that stressor involved in them. So last year's peppers for me weren't as abundant as those in the past. Now last year our weather conditions were quite a bit different than they have been in the past. Last year we had a very cool start to the season and a wet start to the season. And things didn't really get as hot as I think a pepper would like it to be. So that's, I think, why my crop wasn't as abundant as it usually is. So this year I'm going to be putting my peppers in my garden in 2 different locations. In the past, if you've followed some of my older videos, I had an area which I called the Pepper Parkway. And the peppers lined a pathway in my main garden. And I kept them all together right there. This time I'm going to put them in 2 different locations in the garden, far apart from each other. And I'm just kind of doing an experiment to see if my soil conditions will have any impact on my harvest, or perhaps it's the light conditions. I noticed some changes in my main garden as to the harvest that I've been getting over there, so I'm just going to kind of keep my eye on it and make some kind of a judgment at the end of this coming fall as to what I'll do. But anyway, gardening is an experiment. Let's start with the sweet peppers. This one, I'm going to start with this one. This is a bell pepper called King of the North. As a fully ripe pepper, it is red. You can pick it green. It's just as good. It's very blocky fruit like most bell peppers are. Has a thick skin and a very thick wall. And it's great for anything that you would normally use a bell pepper for. I find it's very hardy, very resistant to most pepper diseases, and I like planting this one. Along the same line, this is another one called the California Wonder. This is, in my opinion, it's very close to this one. I have seeds. These were left over. I have planted these in the past. It seems I always go back to the King of the North. Why, I don't really know, but I'm going to plant these and going to do a side-by-side comparison this year to see which one is actually my favorite. So those are 2 of the bell peppers that I will be planting. Next, sweet banana peppers. So I will be planting a couple of these for myself. I think my daughter is going to be planting more of these. She likes these. A banana pepper is very good for pickling and for canning. Next one up is a paprika pepper. Now, I had a spectacular crop of paprika peppers last year. Now, I never grow enough to satisfy the needs for paprika that I have every year. But I try. And this was last year extremely prolific. Now it does have a very long growing season, 80 days, according to the package. So I got to get them in the ground as early as I can The ground needs to be warm enough, and my outdoor temperatures need to be warm enough. I'll go over that with you in just a moment. Another bell pepper, forgot. This one, it's an orange bell pepper, an etuda. I tried these last year. I think I only got 2 peppers to turn orange. This one does take up to 95 days for maturity. That is pushing it in my gardening area here, and especially since I didn't have a nice warm summer that where these would excel in the garden. So I'm going to give them another try this year. They are your typical bell pepper, firm skin, big thick flesh, and very tasty. Another, not exactly called a sweet pepper, but jalapeno. Now, jalapenos are like a jalapeno. They have that wonderful jalapeno flavor, but they have no heat. I've been growing these perhaps for about 6 years, and I just love them. And I spread the word about these to everybody that I can, because they are great pepper and the plants are very prolific. Try it if you haven't already. Okay, another sweet pepper that I tried last year too, it's the cornita. And this is an Italian style pepper, which means it is long and narrow as opposed to your bell pepper, which is short and blocky. This is yellow actually, so it makes a very nice statement in your garden to go with those. Hopefully those orange peppers I can get to grow this year. Okay, I have only 2 hot peppers. Now last year I grew Anaheim peppers, which are kind of lower on the heat scale, Scoville scale I guess, I'm not sure what the number is. But I had a great crop and I still have plenty of those left over. So I don't really need to grow any more Anaheim chilies. But I do still like a little bit of heat from a jalapeno. And this is my favorite variety, Craig's Grande. Pretty prolific. These are grande, which means they are bigger. I don't know, 4 inches sometimes. If you have a good year. Last year, again, mine wasn't that good, but I did get a fairly nice crop of the jalapenos. Now, another one is, and I just kind of fell in love with the name here. This is a Sugar Rush Peach. It had sugar in it. It had peach in it. What could be wrong? Except for the heat. It was pretty hot. But they were very prolific. I did a bang-up harvest with these, and I made hot sauce for the first time. Again, I'm not really a hot pepper person, but the hot sauce was very good, very flavorful. I guess a little sweet. I did sugar the hot sauce just a little bit. A couple drops is all that I could take on my palate at one time. But it is a wonderful, wonderful little pepper, and it was very prolific. So I'm growing this again, and maybe this year, I'm thinking maybe I'll ferment the hot sauce this year. I just made it fresh last year. Very, very good. So before I go downstairs in my seed starting area and start to plant those peppers, let me talk a little bit more about peppers. Mentioned before that pepper plants just love the heat. So we shouldn't be in the market to plant them outside until at least 3 weeks after the last frost, and that your soil has warmed up too. And the night temperatures need to be about above 55, and your daytime temperatures should be hitting up towards into the 70s. Because you want to give them all the warmth that you possibly can. So I was thinking if I'm going to have the same conditions that I had last year, I may put a row cover on them to hold in the warmth of the soil. I did mulch the soil heavily Before they even went in, I had a plastic tarp on it to warm it up artificially, and heavily mulched the plant around the plants so the soil would retain some of that heat. But if the daytime temperatures are not quite what they should be, I may be putting a row cover over them to see if I can't hold in more heat so they will then thrive. And then, of course, you can remove that after your temperatures do get up to into the 70s. And it could have been why my peppers definitely got off to a very slow start and weren't as prolific as in the past. Let's go downstairs and I'll briefly show you how to put a seed in the soil. Let's go. All right, back downstairs, seed starting room, and we are planting peppers right now. All of those varieties that I was just mentioning in the earlier part of this video. So I have, here's a flat of, let me see, we have 5 trays, 6 each, that's 30 right there, and another dozen over here in this area. Important, label, always label. Last ones to plant are my paprika peppers. I've planted most everything already. I usually, since these are older seeds, they're a few years old, I'm going to plant at least 2 in every single pot. Not too difficult. What I do is I put 2 just on the surface of the soil. So generally the rule of thumb is to plant them about twice as deep as the seed is wide. So in this case, they are sitting right on the surface. So I take a toothpick or some pointed object. You could use a pencil, a pen, and I just push them down in to about the depth that they're supposed to. And we're going to firm the soil up on top of them so you have good contact with your moist soil. I'll put a link up in the corner here or down in the description box, and you can go visit one of my videos on seed starting mixes if you want to make your own, or even a little bit more in depth. Ooh. There's not too much depth about planting seeds. It's really not a very hard procedure. Get them all pushed down, and even though my soil is moist, I am going to give them all a drink of water. That way the seed itself will be wetted and it can match its environment, and hopefully that seed coat will start to soften and the internal workings of that seed are going to start to do their magic. Now here, a little gentle rain, and hopefully these will start sprouting in a few days. These will also go on a heat mat. Well, here's what I've got for my 2024 season, fingers crossed, and they germinate successfully. I have good germination rates on these. I don't see why not. Thanks for following along with me on my pepper journey. You saw the varieties that I am planting this year. What are you planting this year? Let me know down in the comments below. And until the next time that we can go digging in the dirt, happy gardening. Bye.